Hello, and welcome to another episode of Make Astrology Fun Again. For those who are new to my channel, my name is Jose. I do a bunch of things, one of them being astrology, so you can probably see from the introduction, well, what I said earlier, and the background. Um, Specifically, what I call micro astrology is what I do. I like working with asteroids because it gives so much detail. It's surprising how much you get to know through the details. It's like, we can talk about that later too. I feel like there's another topic coming up here, but anyways. So in today's video, I wanted to talk specifically about um, how there are some people out there who are healing, and there's some people out there who are kind of in the middle, and some people who are not healing or have yet to heal. One thing I noticed about with astrology, and it shows up in the chart status. Okay, so what this means is that whatever your life experiences are, for me at least, I feel it's in the charts. Not to say that you look to the charts for answers and all that stuff. However, it can be found. It's just a matter of the interpretation of who's reading and what's being read. So one of the things I discovered is through what's called the NADIR or the Imam Kweli, because those are tied to core beliefs. Um, I actually could show you where mine is. So I'm going to share my screen here. And these are called progression charts. And you don't have to do so much with progression charts, but by looking at it, just simply looking at it, and you compare it to the birth chart itself, you'll notice that there's a shift. And if you look at what do you call this? The progressions between this sign and this sign and this sign and this sign, you'll notice that there's a connection, right? So for example, I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so share my screen. This one's actually very interesting because it's like it shows depth in a certain way that your birth chart itself cannot show, because the birth chart is like it is the dominant energy, as I was told, um, as I have learned rather. But it's there's something about the progressions that show exactly how much you've changed. So let's look at my chart here. Okay, just the birth chart, simple birth chart. You can see that it's, let's say okay, so Imam Kweli, you see that I see. Okay. I'm actually open another window, another tab here. Okay. So it's in Libra. But we have to take into consideration the planets that are conjunct that core beliefs, right? It's also the fourth house, but it's, I believe, specifically tied to the Imam Kweli. So it's actually tied to also the midheaven MC. I forgot what it's called. It's a Latin thing. Um, so the nadir and the midheaven are always connected. So I remember when I was a kid, I used to value so much like relationship. I still do actually. It's very strong. It's still strong today. But I was very serious about it. You can see here, the sun is in 26 degrees. So it's the the last 5 degrees of the sign in Libra. And what that often means, it's a critical degree. There's another term for it. I forgot what the term is. I'm not caught up in, or I'm not gonna, I don't get caught up in the terminology, all those things. It is important, however, that's not what the reading is for. When you're reading for someone, even for yourself, you get the point. The wording is not what matters, it's how it's used. So if you forget a wording or certain terminology in astrology, fine. Trust what you see. Notice that because of the mathematical symbols and all that stuff, you'll notice that because it's nearing the end, you feel that there's a pressure behind it, right? It's just like nearing the end, right? So feel that. So that means that when you have something that's in the critical degrees of the sign, that's very strong. So the imum quality here is like that with the sun and Pluto here. So it's very, I took it very seriously. So it's very heavy, you know. Today, as I got older, when I turned 30, 33 around there, my sun moved to about 27 degrees, 28 degrees, Scorpio. So what that means is it's, again, there's a huge change that's happening there. It's transitioning to a different element, different sign, meaning different feeling, different archetype. It doesn't mean that you're changing. It doesn't mean that my identity, which is the sun, and Pluto, which is power, but it's still in Libra today. Because Pluto is a generational planet. It doesn't move that fast. Um, mind you, when it comes to progressions don't move. They don't move. It's not because they're not real planets. They're not the actual positions of planets. Those are transits. Okay, so okay, I'm going to show you also a visual. I'll give you a visual of the progressions. So let's say we went to 2013, same date, right? Then we go to progressions. You look at this one. So you see, my sun was in 29 degrees in 2013. That was a very huge year for me. I had a falling out with friends, um, and I was just not a huge change. As you can see, it's also conjunct 26 degrees Uranus here. There's a progression of Uranus just by 2 degrees, and the sun conjunct that. So there's a huge change in my identity or what I identified as myself. Even like as I was younger, that also happened, but that was already happened as I was as a child. So I'm used to that progression. I'm used to the changing. So this one was a big year for me. Then once it entered Sagittarius, it's just, I felt the difference. It's just like, oh, a little bit, I feel a little bit freer, which I did because in 2013, what happened was even though I had a falling out with friends who I perceived as family, because I wasn't being honest with my emotions, um, there are other factors showing why I lost them, so to speak. Um, if you can see right here, the progressed Sun Uranus, 29 degrees, 26 degrees. It's actually kind of it's some sextile, 28. So there was something pulling me to change that in that direction, to be clear with my desires, pure, just as a Virgo thing. It was expanding that. And actually, because it was Saturn there was a limitations to how I was less communicative near the end of that year. And once it changed, it's literally like felt like this new thing. I started getting into swimming, do things for myself more. I had more time, which is funny because it's like that's also Saturn. So Saturn here is sextile, um, the sun here, not Uranus. So the progressed sun is sextile Saturn here. So what that means, I know this may be confusing for some because it's just progressions, but you think about it like as if you're treating it like a transit or you're comparing the two, as if you're reading a chart, you're just combining it. That's it. You're just shifting the definitions. Don't get caught up too much in like this symbol, this symbol, this symbol. No, get the feeling of what it might mean if you put it together. And that's one of the things that we have in today's society. We like to break things down way too often that we forget the artistry in us, the ability to interpret, the ability to trust ourselves, the ability to just, you know, do something like this, something as simple as like if you see a picture, people might say, "Oh, I just see a blank page." Do you? Right. So you trust that intuition, you trust your instincts, trust your intuition. That is what has been missing. And so, okay. Anyways, I digress a little bit. So you can see the difference between the two charts, right? So this is a progression. Okay. Um, And so that's that. So, but we're talking about like, where's the nadir? Where did it move to? Well, technically, it didn't, you don't see it here. But if I went into what's called the progressed, or I believe it's called the progressed chart, not just progressions. You can see, so progressed chart. Look at that. 26 degrees, you're in 29 degrees. But look at the sign it's in, which was already visible in the other one. But also look at where the IC is. The IC is in 27 degrees. So the huge changes in ego there. I was actually going through an awakening and literally like health wise, because this is Scorpio and it's tied to the fourth house. It's still kind of body a little bit. Um, home felt different for me. So a lot of changes after that, right? So because it's tied to Scorpio, it is tied to the bottom. It's tied to toxins being released, toxins, all that stuff. So my thing today is like I'm showing this to you that's visible through the charts, right? That when you see same changes in the charts, great, okay, you see them, but you don't really have to look at the chart themselves per se to know that what you're going through can be discovered through the body, through the inside. They're going through the body, going in, going in, going in, going in, right? So I actually it came to me last week that sometimes, I'm just going to read what I wrote here. Some are ready to heal or move past suffering. The reason I'm saying this is because I notice people who are still kind of very reactive and they miss the point when you share something. When someone shares something on YouTube, or someone shares something on social media, or someone shares something with you, and that sometimes we want to hear what we want to hear because we're so these days there's a lot of tension and there's a lot of people that are still reacting. And so what happens is instead of folk going in, what happens is it becomes this reactive thing. It's like they're not used to the changes that are happening. Well, that's the thing. I went through this, and basically, to put it bluntly, you're going to suffer until you realize there's no need to hold on to the suffering. Sun Pluto people, let me show you, let me tell you this right now. There are people, there's a lot of people that I've met, actually, not a lot, but there's several people that I met that are like that. They realize there's an ego death all the time. I'm not saying that other people don't experience it, but they experience it less frequently. So for Sun Pluto people, we have this ego death that's happening. Even Moon Pluto, there's a change, there's a shift happening, right? It's not just Pluto versus if you think about Scorpio. Um, but Scorpio isn't really, it is transformation, but Pluto is more about the transformation itself. It's because it's the planet. Think of it as like the aspect of your soul that is the actual thing, the what. In astrology, we call it the what. The sign is just the how and the why. So the signs don't really show that there is transformation happening. It's the planets to do that. Okay, this is why you have what do you call this? The aspects. Okay, so when this person was reacting to what I posted, I just left it alone because I was like, okay. So they didn't realize that it was just they didn't take the time to pause and they just reacted and just typed stuff. And it had nothing to do with the post. It was sort of implying that there was something that the post was kind of ignoring this thing that's happening, this stuff that's happening in the world. That's an interpretation. That's a belief of the person who commented and reacted. So they're not used to the suffering. They're not used to seeing that. So they don't know how to process it. And that's fine. There's no judgment when I say that because it's just they're in their own journey. So what I'm really trying to say in this video is there are some who are ready to heal and move past suffering. I feel like I'm definitely getting there. There's some who are ready to do that, but actually still go through suffering. I'm kind of in the middle between this and that. There are some that are still healing. There are some that are still healing, but are actually ready to move past it. And then the list goes on. There are some that are about to heal, but are still holding on to something, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? There's still, so it depends on your level of consciousness. Eckhart Tolle puts it this way, that it depends on your level of consciousness, your how you relate with people. So consciousness is part of your awareness of like, oh, many people see awareness and consciousness as if it's like it's about like being it's they decide to present as if it's like only a time thing. Not really. Yes, it is, but at the same time, it's more about it comes from the surrender. So you see how there's a silence in between there? Most of us get uncomfortable with the silence, but there will be eventually a time in life, in your life, or this life, life circumstances really, um, where you start to feel, okay, enough is enough. So, I mean, humanity is feeling that way now. I remember feeling like enough was enough years ago. Not 2013, it was actually just several years ago. And it was just like, um, but it still happens because I get lazy. And sometimes, when you get lazy, you're forced to awaken. You're forced to be like, you become complacent, that is. So I've become complacent many times, but there's not necessarily a bad thing. Point is not about a good or bad thing. Many people still hold on to this polarity, right? So going back to how it's tied to astrology is that if you look at your charts, if you look at other people's charts, you notice that sometimes they'll improve, they'll not progress, but then sometimes there will also parts showing that it's like first of all it's like, oh, it looks good, but then somehow they're still suffering or they're still holding on to things, and that's fine because there's no definite thing, right? Even if we were to go through like all the details of the asteroids, like the whole 150 ones that are used, we went through a person's chart, just focusing on, let's say, the core beliefs or the even or the NADIR. Just because their core beliefs have changed does not mean that they're still not experiencing suffering. But suffering, remember, and if you know this quote, right? There is suffering is a pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So it's about bringing the light of awareness to that. You've heard this probably this term before when you say the light of awareness, you surrender to it and you see it for what it is. It's a story. Because as humans, we require a lot of hand holding. We do. And so what happens is your hands are going to be held often, but there will come a time when we start to realize it kind of feels like, it's like taking off the training wheels. You start to realize, no, I need to learn how to do this on my own. I need to feel independent. I need to be free. Because if someone keeps holding your hand, we get so, again, that complacent. You're like, mommy, daddy, oh, I'm gonna hold the hand, don't let go. We're so afraid of that comfort or so afraid of change. So, but change is inevitable, right? Eventually, the parent, mommy, daddy, whatever, will let go of you because your sovereignty is part of your worth. If they keep holding on to you, they're taking away your power, or rather, you're giving away your power. And power, I mean, like your true essence, that you're infinite being. So I don't know if you can feel how this is all tied to astrology because it's so beautiful. Like astrology will reveal so many things, right? So the point of this whole thing is that it depends on your full circumstances, right? Or what you see as your path. So the point is when you're ready or not yet, that's okay. You are where you're supposed to be. I think a lot of times we forget that. So that's my show for today. Thank you very much for watching. I will post another video on something related to this, I believe. So, but keep an eye out for that one. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was informative at least. If you have any comments, write down below, comments down below. Um, I think that's it for now. I'll see you in the next video. And thank you for watching and like and subscribe, please. I will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.